If you follow any form of auto racing, you likely know the names: Andretti, Foyt, Petty, and Earnhardt. But arguably, the greatest of all time is Jimmie Johnson.
Jimmie Johnson's gonna win. Jimmie Johnson.
Jimmie Johnson makes history.
Jimmie Johnson has done the unthinkable for a modern-era NASCAR driver.
You are looking at 7-time champion, Jimmie Johnson. Yes! Yes!
But what if all the wins, the championships, and the records never happened? What if a tiny moment in history, a simple conversation that Jimmie Johnson had with a powerhouse NASCAR driver, went slightly different? But what if the conversation never happened at all? Would it have changed everything we know about Jimmie Johnson? So what if Jimmie Johnson was never recruited to race at Hendrick Motorsports? Throughout the 1990s, a young driver named Jeff Gordon established himself as a superstar in the NASCAR Cup Series.
That shows what this team's made of, and that's why we're battling for a championship.
By 2000, he had 52 wins and 3 championships in just 8 seasons. Jimmie Johnson was born in El Cajon, California, and began racing motorcycles at the age of 4. Johnson then went on to compete in the off-road series after high school.
It's a dream come true to be with a team that wants to win so bad.
And by 1997, he was racing on asphalt. Quickly on the rise, he moved to the Busch Series. After nearly 40 starts and only 7 top 10 finishes, things weren't exactly moving fast for Jimmie Johnson.
Oh my God!
I've had to fight a long, hard battle to get to where I'm at. I'm really not going to let any of that pressure get to me.
But tensions were still on the rise for Jimmie Johnson, as he was becoming more uncertain about his plans for the 2001 season.
At the end of the year, sponsorship was a question. Just didn't know what was going to happen. And different teams, Winston Cup teams, Busch teams, truck teams, everybody was bombarding me with questions and if I was available.
Desperate for advice, Johnson somehow mustered up the courage to approach Jeff Gordon at Michigan International Speedway and ask if he could speak privately with him. To his surprise, Gordon agreed.
I wasn't looking to get anything from Jeff. I know he's a very busy man, and I just wanted a couple minutes of his time for some advice, hoping I could take a piece out of there and apply it to my situation.
Little did Jimmie know that at the time, Hendrick Motorsports was in talks of starting a 4th race team.
We'd kind of been watching him, and then he and my son Ricky were great friends, and Jeff doesn't notice someone that makes that much of an impression on him. This was one of those that he just really said, hey, this guy's got it.
Last year when I went to talk to Jeff in the transporter a little bit about my opportunities, I thought, man, what a great opportunity, but will it really come together? And before I knew it, this all came along, and I had, nice Hendrick Motorsports shirts in my closet.
83 wins and 7 championships later, here we are. But what if Jimmie Johnson never signed with Hendrick Motorsports? Would he have been able to eventually land another ride in the Cup Series? If so, what team would he have been on? And would he and Jeff Gordon, who had on-track incidents as teammates later in their career,
Touch once, twice, drag race, Jimmie Johnson!
become fierce rivals on separate teams?
Aggression in the drive shown by Jeff Gordon.
Whoa, they hit!
4 times a little upset.
The 48 is testing my patience, I can tell you that.
Chad Knaus, who was Johnson's crew chief for all 7 championships and nearly all of his points wins, likely would have never been paired with the young driver. So would Johnson even be competitive? Would this have forced him to ultimately drop out of NASCAR earlier than expected? What then would happen with Jimmie Johnson? Would he go back to off-road racing? Or with on-air experience, would we perhaps see Jimmie Johnson as a pit reporter?
But if something is to happen, I'll be here to make sure you find out about it.
But how would Jimmie Johnson's absence in the Cup Series affect the sport of NASCAR over the past 2 decades? Would there even be a number 48 team? If so, who would be the driver? And would they find success like Jimmie did? Who would have won Johnson's 7 championships? Would we have a 50-year-old driver, Mark Martin, who was the runner-up to Jimmie Johnson in 2009, finally win his first championship? What if Jimmie Johnson wasn't there to race head-to-head with Denny Hamlin in 2010? Or Carl Edwards in 2008? Would both drivers have a championship title added to their resume? Or would drivers like Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano have additional championships after finishing second to Johnson in separate seasons? However, the irony of it all is that the same person who recruited and vouched for Jimmie Johnson likely would have found the most on-track success if Johnson were not in the number 48 car. So just how many wins would Jeff have if Jimmie was never in the picture at Hendrick? Now, let's get back to Chad Knaus. Knaus used to work on Jeff's number 24 car, both in the pits and in the race shop.
I said I wanted to be Jeff Gordon's crew chief for a long time. I wanted to be crew chief on the 24 car.
So would Jeff have ultimately ended up with Chad Knaus as his crew chief at some point in his career? Given the resources Gordon would have from Knaus, who's considered by many as one of the greatest crew chiefs of all time, one could make the argument that Jeff would have found his way to victory lane more often, significantly adding to his already 93 career wins. And would these additional checkered flags be enough to put Gordon second on the all-time wins list over David Pearson? And instead of 7-time champion Jimmie Johnson, would Johnson's absence be rephrased to 7-time champion Jeff Gordon? Or would he have more championships? Would Jeff Gordon then undoubtedly be considered the best to ever drive in NASCAR? There's no question, Jeff Gordon profited handsomely from his financial investment with Jimmie Johnson and the number 48 team. But when you look back on history, one could only wonder, what if Jimmie Johnson was never recruited to race at Hendrick Motorsports? We will never know, because what we do know is what actually happened.
I don't even know what to say. Gosh! Johnson, you are the man, buddy. Woo-hoo! GG, thank you for picking me, bro. It couldn't have been a better one. You're awesome. Way to go.